Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Let's Code. Today we're going to be coding the classic bubble sort algorithm in Java. If you're familiar with algorithms, you'll know bubble sort is one of the very first algorithms that are taught. And it is actually a very inefficient sorting algorithm, but it basically allows you to pass in an array of numbers, and this algorithm will sort those numbers and return to you a sorted array. The way it does this is it bubbles the largest number to the top. So it iterates over the array n times, and then each time inside of those iterations it'll bubble the largest element, and then the n minus 1 largest element, then the n minus 2 largest element, until you get to the very end and you end up with a sorted array. So I do recommend go do some research on bubble sort. Come back to this video when you're ready to implement the code, and let's get started. So what I like to do first is set up my main method here. If you're using IntelliJ, you can type PSBM. It'll give you a nice method declaration shortcut for the main method. And I like to go ahead and just define an integer array here. And then I just type in some random numbers. You can get as creative as you want to with those. And then I like to call the sort method on the array. It hasn't been defined yet, so it's going to be red. That's fine. And then I just go ahead and set up my for loop to iterate through the array and print out each item, so that when we finish writing our algorithm, we'll have the main method ready to test it. So we want to print out array at I for each item in the array. So now let's go ahead and implement our sorting algorithm. We're going to go ahead and pass in our array. Let's do some sanitizing of the input. Anytime you're writing a new method, you want to make sure that you think about input, and you want to validate that input and sanitize. Make sure that, number one, if array.length is less than 2, which means there's only one object or there's 0 objects, we're just going to return. There's nothing for us to do here. And you can throw an exception here if you wanted. You could get creative, but for the sake of this example, we're just going to return, and I'm going to print out there are not enough elements in the array to sort. Okay. Other than that, we're going to get started with the algorithm. What we want to do is iterate over every object inside of the array. And then we're going to set up another iterator, so we're going to have a nested for loop. This is where that n squared time complexity comes in. For integer j equals 1, j less than array.length minus I. Remember I said it sorts the n object, then it sorts the n minus 1 object. So that's why we can subtract the I here to improve the running time just a little bit. Then we'll do j++. Okay, so now we've got our for loop set up. Now we can do our check. If array at j is less than array at j minus 1, we want to swap them. So imagine j, it's our very first iteration. J is 1, j minus 1 is 0. We're going to check to see if array at 0 is greater than array at 1. If it is, we're going to bubble it up to the next spot. So let's go ahead and swap those. We'll set up a temp variable to hold array at j. We'll set array j to array j minus 1. And then we'll set array j minus 1 equal to temp. And there's our swap. So this will happen. As you can see, the second for loop, this is going to happen from 1 to array.length minus I. So I is 0 here. The very first time we go through this, we're going to iterate over every single object. So at the end of this first complete set of for loop iterations, we'll have the very top element printed in the largest spot. So, it might be helpful. Let's just go ahead and print at each iteration. We'll set up a nice print method here. Public, and we'll call it print iteration, and it'll take in our array. and then iteration. Okay. So we're just going to print out iteration and then we'll go ahead and loop through, printing out each item in the array, followed by space. So let's print the iteration after each full for loop, and we should see the very largest item bubble up to the top each time. So let's run this guy, see what we get. Our output might look kind of messy. We'll take a look at it after and see what we get. So what we have here is we need to actually print out a new line after this. So what I like to do here is we'll just print out some separators to show us that we've finished that iteration. And what we should see at each iteration, we should see the very largest number get bubbled to the top. So here we can see the very largest number is here, second largest number is here, third, fourth, and so on and so forth. As you can see, those numbers are getting bubbled to the very top of the array. And then at the end, we end up with the sorted array here. Let's run it one more time so you can see the final result. There we are. Okay. So basically, let me add a space in there for you guys. I was looking at that big number thinking, what in the world? So let's print it, add a space, and you'll see the sorted array at the end. Here it is. 1, 1, 4, 5, 6, 12, 24, 77, 89, 123, 123, 249,572. So when you code this up, feel free to print stuff out, step through it in debug mode if you want to find out how it's running. Remember, the running time is big O of n squared, and the n squared comes from the fact that we have a nested for loop here. So for every item in the array, we're going to go through, and then for each time we iterate through each item, we're going to potentially swap it n number of times. So imagine that we had the very largest number in spot array at 0. It would have to get moved all the way up. So that is bubble sort in a nutshell, a really quick, simple, dirty explanation. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll be more than happy to assist if you run into any problems. But thanks for watching as always. Do visit mindfulbit.com to stay up to date on these blog posts, and I do offer a coaching service to sort of help teach soft skills to developers, time management, boundary setting, how to communicate, all things that will be very valuable for getting you to the next level in your career and accomplishing your goals. So thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.